Open your eyes.
Teddy Roosevelt 2019 is not monetized.
We know very little about what's being negotiated because, again, the documents are all kept secret from members of Congress. They have been shared, however, with 600 corporations who, at the click of a mouse, can access them through a secure site online. But yet, no member of Congress is allowed to see these documents.
Open your eyes.
And we're doing this because this is a global corporate coup.
About 27 miles away from here, secret negotiations are ongoing, and no members of Congress, a number of us have asked to be allowed to observe the negotiations because they'll have a dramatic impact on the future of the United States of America and our economy, but no member of Congress has been allowed into these negotiations. This is over something called the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Republicans in Congress are eager to work with the Obama administration to fast-track the passage of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. If you haven't heard much about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that's part of the problem right there. It would be the largest trade deal in history, involving countries stretching from Chile to Japan, representing 792 million people and accounting for 40% of the world economy.
You want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership. You called it the gold standard. You called it the gold standard of trade deals.
The facts are, I did say I hoped it would be a good deal.
So it's fair to say that our economies are entwined, and we need to keep upping our game, both bilaterally and with partners across the region through agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP. Australia is a critical partner. This TPP sets the gold standard in trade agreements to open, free, transparent, fair trade.
We know very little about what's being negotiated because, again, the documents are all kept secret from members of Congress. They have been shared, however, with 600 corporations who, at the click of a mouse, can access them through a secure site online. But yet, no member of Congress is allowed to see these documents, no one representing the American people.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership, the historic trade pact being negotiated now by the Obama administration.
TPP is good for American businesses and American workers.
And Obama was so hoping to get Congress to give him authority to fast-track the TPP without letting them read the trade deal first. But guess what? It didn't pass.
The Senate sent a strong message to the president today.
The Senate voted 52 to 45, short of the 60 votes needed.
And the craziest part? It was the Democrats in the Senate that voted nay.
A trade agreement that threatens the middle class.
We are in a race to the bottom.
I believe that. The truth of the matter is that my policies are so mainstream that, you know, if I had said the same policies that I have back in the 1980s, I'd be considered a moderate Republican. I mean,
either way, the president still does have support from a totally unsuspecting group who was outraged that the bill didn't pass. The Republicans.
But this is one area where the President of the United States is absolutely correct. This is sort of typical obstructionism.
And to have our colleagues vote against cloture on a bill that their president wants more than any other bill.
The president must be bummed. He was pushing so hard for this bill. He even tried to promote the TPP from Oregon at the headquarters of Nike, which is like launching a firearms buyback program from George Zimmerman's front lawn. Not a good look. Obama basically picked the one company whose brand name is interchangeable with the words overseas child labor.
Mr. President, in relation to so-called free trade deals in Australia, all Australians, including senators, are treated like mushrooms. We're kept in the dark and we're fed crap. These deals are secret. These deals are done behind closed doors, and we don't get the information until they've been signed by Cabinet.
While the TPP was being negotiated, members of Congress could not even get a copy or any access at all to the treaty. After the 12 countries signed the final version of the agreement, members of the U.S. House and Senate could only read drafts of the document in designated reading rooms in the basement of the Capitol, and they could not bring their cell phones into the room. Their staff could not get a copy, either paper or electronic, and they could not comment to the public what was in the treaty.
As Congressman Alan Grayson said, it is ironic that the government thinks it's all right to have a record of every single call that an American makes, but not all right for an American citizen to know what sovereign powers the government is negotiating away. Having seen what I've seen, I would characterize it as a punch in the face to the middle class of America. But I'm not allowed to tell you why. They can't tell us who's hitting us in the face.
This is extraordinary. 600 corporations have access to this document, but no member of Congress has access to this document.
And the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
She's gone. I better learn how to face it. She's gone. She's gone. She's gone. I pay the devil to replace her. She's gone.
This is really an extraordinary thing that this is being done in secret. No member of Congress is allowed to review it. It has one chapter we know about, which is so egregious, which gives corporations the power to challenge in foreign tribunals, not U.S. courts, our domestic laws that protect consumers and the environment. We would now give this authority to corporations, if China accesses to this, that are run by the Communist government of China, because they own many of the corporations in their country. The People's Liberation Army owns those corporations.
Time to craft trade policy that was more responsible and more responsive to the concerns of Americans who really weren't that sure about whether or not trade was a good thing not only for our country but for people around the world.
Overpowering democratic will of the people, we're here to stand for the 99% of people of this country and the world against the corporate dictatorship. A small elite of 1%ers who want to run everything, who want to own everything, and ruin the economy, ruin our health, ruin our jobs, and we won't stand for it.
Finally, after 3 years of basically acting like it didn't exist, the President and Congress are talking about TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Even though I and other media, alternative media nut jobs have been talking about it for 3 years, the mainstream media just found out about it. In fact, at a recent press conference, they covered the Japanese Prime Minister speaking about the trade deal.
That was a really long answer, but I felt pretty strongly about it.
First of all, on TPP.
All right, we're going to break away. The president just spent...
Boom! Wolf Blitzer swatted that out of there like a big fat basketball. Thank goodness the Wolf was there to blitzkrieg in and shut it down. But President Obama also went on Chris Matthews' show Hardball to talk about it.
Wait and see what we actually have in this deal before you make those judgments.
God, I'd love to, but you won't let anyone see it!
Right now, big banking, software, pharmaceutical, and tobacco corporations are lobbying governments from 12 countries to negotiate the dirtiest deal you've never heard of. There's a reason you haven't heard of the TPP, or Trans-Pacific Partnership. There are some major corporations and government officials that don't want you to know what's in the deal. For one, our food safety standards, environmental protections, and local labor laws could all be threatened under the TPP. We could all be forced to pay significantly more for the medicines we need, and you could be fined or even sent to jail for downloading copyrighted content on the internet. How will they know if you do it? Because your internet service providers could be required to watch your online activity. But that's not even the scariest part. The TPP gives corporations the power to sue our government in secret foreign tribunals over any law or regulation they claim affects their expected future profits. Don't believe it? It's already happening. Recently, after Canada said U.S. big pharma corporation Eli Lilly's drug price-raising patents were not legit, the firm sued the Canadian taxpayers for a staggering $500 million.
By Democratic administrations.
You're quite right. Many of these policies, you're absolutely right. Many of these policies were supported by not only Republicans, by President Clinton and, unfortunately, President Obama. They are bad policies. They are opposed, by and large, by every trade union in this country, and I believe by the majority of the American people. At the end of the day, the American worker should not be forced to compete against people in Vietnam who make 56 cents an hour minimum wage.
How do you roll back the clock on those agreements?
Well, you renegotiate agreements. And what you say is, look, we want agreements that work for the American middle class. I want to see, we have lost, just to review, since 2001, we have lost almost 60,000 factories in the United States of America and millions of decent paying jobs. Not all of that is attributable to trade, but a lot of it is. And at the end of the day, if corporations can shut down in America, pay people 25 cents an hour, 50 cents an hour someplace else, that's what they will do. And we have got to stop that. We have to demand they reinvest back in this country and provide decent paying jobs here.
It has not taken President Donald Trump long to jump into his new role feet first. On this first Monday of his first week in office, the president set about to fulfill some campaign promises that got him elected.
With the stroke of his executive pen, President Donald Trump fulfilled a central campaign promise and killed one of President Obama's signature trade deals, the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Great thing for the American worker, what we just did.
The action drew a sharp response from Republican Senator John McCain, who tweeted, quote, POTUS withdrawing from TPP is a serious mistake for America's economy and strategic position in the Asia-Pacific. Meeting with union leaders this afternoon, the president defended his actions, insisting TPP was not in America's best interests.